I'm now moving on to question number 7 from the homework from section 1.5, and for these questions I need to evaluate. You'll notice that a lot of these problems, if I kind of zoom in here, we have these fractional powers here, so we have to be able to simplify those pretty quickly. Now, I recommend students to always look at this bottom number here. Sorry, not that. So the very first question here, the bottom number here is a 4, right? So that 4 is kind of like the key to kind of breaking down this problem here. And what you want to do is you want to take your base and you want to be able to write that 16 so that it has a power of 4. All right, so I know that 2 to the power of 4 is equal to 16. All right, so instead of writing 16, I can write that as 2 to the power of 4. And then on the outside, I have the 3 over 4 tagging along. And one of the reasons why I ask students to like kind of look at that 4 from the start is because that 4 and this 4 that can just cancel off, and now you're left with 2 to the power 3, and 2 to the power 3 is going to be 8. So my final answer here is going to be 8. Now for these homework questions, you'll notice that if you get part A right, part B is essentially the same question except that there's a negative exponent there. So if you have the question correct on part A, the answer for part B is just 1 over that. So anytime you have a negative power, you can change into a positive expression by doing 1 over the answer. And the answer that we had before was 8. Okay, let's move on to letter C now. So the bottom number here is a 3. So you want to write the base, this 8, as a power of 3. So I know that 2 to the power 3 is equal to 8. Okay, so I can now write this 8 as 2 to the power 3, and then this other 2/3 will just tag along. And you'll notice that this 3 and that 3 will cancel off, and you're left with just 2 to the power of 4. Oh, sorry, not 4, sorry, 2 to the power 2. And 2 to the power 2 is going to be 4, so letter C is going to be 4. Once again, letter D is pretty much the exact same question, except that there's a negative sign there, so anytime you have a negative power, you just take your answer and do 1 over that. So D is pretty quick. Letter E, okay, so there's a 3 there, so what you need to do is you got to take your base and you need to write that as a power of 3. So we know that 3 to the power 3 is equal to 27. So knowing that fact, I can write 27 as 3 to the power 3, and then the 4/3 will tag along, and then you'll notice that that 3 and that 3 will cancel off, and you're left with 3 to the power 4. Now 3 to the power 4 is just 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, 4 times, and that's going to be 81. So letter E is going to be 81. And if E is 81, then F has the negative power there, so this is going to be 1 over 81. Okay, let's move on to letter G. For letter G, if there's a minus sign, the minus sign will just tag along, and then we have a 4 there. So the question is 16 can be written as what base to the power of 4? So that if we do a little bit of work on the side here, I know that 2 to the power 4 is equal to 16. So I can take this 16, I can write that as 2 to the power of 4, and then the 5 over 4 tags along, and then that 4 and that 4 cancel off, and you're left with negative 2 to the power of 5. 2 to the power of 5 is going to be 32, so my answer is going to be negative 32. Okay, so negative 32 there, and that means for letter H, because there's a negative exponent there, it's going to be negative 1 over 32. Okay, let's move on to I. Okay, so for I, there's a 5 there. So what we need to know is, I know that 2 to the power 5 is equal to 32. That's a fact that you got to be pretty good at for this particular section. And instead of writing 32, that's going to be 2 to the power of 5. And then I have a 4 over 5 there, the original there, and the minus sign tags along. And once again, the 5 and the 5 cancel off, and you're left with negative 2 to the power of 4. 2 to the power of 4 is going to be 16, and then the minus sign tags along. So negative 16 is my final answer for I. And that means for J, the final answer is negative 1 over 16. Okay. For K, there's a 3 there. So what to the power of 3 gives you 216. So if you do a little bit of math here, 6 to the power of 3 is 216. Okay, so the 216, instead of writing that, that's going to be 6 to the power of 3. And then the 2/3 will remain on the outside. The 3's cancel off, and then you have 6 to the power 2, which is going to be 36. So for K, the final answer is going to be 36. And for L, that's going to be 1 over 36. Okay, good. Okay, for M, there's a 3 there, and there's a 125, so I know that 5 to the power 3 is going to be 125. Okay, so I can write this as 5 to the power 3. That's the 125, and then the 4/3 just tags along. So hopefully everyone can see that. And then finally the 3's cancel off, so you're left with negative 5 to the power 4. Negative 5 to the power 4, sorry, 5 to the power 4, this part right here, that's the big number, that's going to be 625, and then the minus sign tags along, so negative 625. And that means this will be negative 1 over 625. Good. Okay, let's move on to letter O. I have a 6 there, and then I need a base of 64 there. So that's going to be 2 to the power of 6. 2 to the power 6 is going to be 64. So instead of writing 64, I can write 2 to the power 6. And then the 7 over 6 tags along, and then the 6's cancel off, and you get 2 to the power 7. Okay, so if I know that 2 to the power 6 is 64, then 2 to the power 7 is taking 64 and timesing by 2, which is going to be 128. So this answer is going to be 128. And I guess this answer will be 1 over 128. Okay, let's go to question Q now. There's a 2 there, and there's a 49. So you're probably thinking 7 to the power 2 is 49. Perfect. So instead of writing 49, I can write 7 to the power 2. And then the 3 over 2 tags along, minus sign there. And then these questions are kind of repeating all over again, the general idea. 7 to the power 3, let me just grab my calculator here, is going to be 343, so negative 343. And then for R, I guess it's going to be negative 1 over 343. Okay. I think for the rest of the video, I probably won't do the questions that are on the right-hand side. You can probably figure that out on your own. On the next question, there's a 7 and there's a 128. So I'm thinking 2 to the power 7 is 128. That came up in a previous problem. So instead of writing 128, I can write 2 to the power 7. And then the 5 over 7 tags along. And then the 7's cancel off, giving you just 2 to the power 5. And 2 to the power 5 is 32. So 32 is the final answer for letter S. Okay, let's go on to U now. Same thing, I got a 5 here and a 243. Okay, so I know that 3 to the power 5 is 243. So instead of writing 243, I'm going to write 3 to the 5 and 6 over 5. And those will cancel off. The minus sign tags along. So this will be negative 3 to the 6. And that's going to be negative 700 and it's a big one, negative 729. All right, almost done here. Last one, there's a 4 on the bottom and there's an 81. So it's 3 to the power 4 is 81. Okay, so instead of writing the 81 here, I can write 3 to the power of 4, and then the 5 over 4 tags along. You'll notice that the 4's cancel off and you get 3 to the power 5. 3 to the power 5, it's going to be 243. Alright, so that's it for question number 7, and I will continue the homework video guide by going on to question number 8. Alright, question number 8. I need to simplify and leave my answer with positive exponents. Now, you'll notice that for these questions, the bases are the same. So if the bases are the same, you're simply just adding the powers. So 2 to the power of 1 over 4 plus 5 over 4. For these questions, the denominators are the same here, so you can just add the fractions. So 5 plus 1 is 6, so 6 over 4. And if you want to simplify that, that's 2 to the power of 3 over 2. And I believe that's your final answer here, 2 to the power of 3 over 2. Okay, so for these kind of questions, you just need to be good at adding fractions here. So 3 to the power of 2/3 plus 7/3. Since the denominators are the same, you can just add the numerators. So 2 plus 7 is 9, so 9 over 3. And 9 over 3 is going to be 3. So 3 to the power of 3 is your final answer. For C, let's continue on with C. So I have 1 over 4 plus minus this negative 3 over 4, so negative 3 over 4. The denominators are the same, so 1 minus 3 is going to be negative 2, so negative 2 over 4, which is the same thing as 4 to the power of negative 1/2. And if you want to write that as a positive exponent, just put this as 1 over 4 to the power of 1/2. You should also recognize that 4 to the power of 1/2, this has probably been discussed in class a few times, but that's the same thing as the square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is just 2, so the final answer is just 1/2. So 1/2 is a better answer for letter C. Okay, moving on to letter D now. All right, let's just add the powers here, combine the powers here. So it's 5 to the power of negative 3 over 3, which is 5 to the power of negative 1, which is 1 over 5. So 1 over 5 is the final answer for that one. And for letter E, if you're dividing, you are now subtracting the powers. So just set your expression up like that, and since the denominators are the same, you can just subtract the numerator. So 3 minus 5 is negative 2, so negative 2 over 4. This is 6 to the power of negative 1/2, which is the same thing as 1 over 6 to the 1/2. So that's your final answer for letter E. Letter F, same kind of deal, 7 to the power of 2 over 5. Okay, so minus, but this is going to be a negative 1 over 5. So there's two negatives there, you're simply adding them. And since the denominators are same, you just add the top. So 2 plus 1 is 3, so 3 over 5. So 7 to the power of 3 over 5 for that one. And for letter G, now we're getting to a few more steps here. So, but we still add the top, so plus 4 over 7. Now be careful on the bottom here, there's a minus sign there. This came up quite a bit in the previous problems, but you're going to add that to 3. You're going to make that a plus and just add 3 over 7 there. So the good thing with these quadrant problems is that the denominators are all the same, so you're just kind of looking at the numerators here. So negative 2 plus 4 is 2, and 2 plus 3 is going to be 5. So this is going to be 5 to the power 5 over 7 there. So 8 to the power of 5 over 7. And for letter H, this is going to be 9 to the power of 3 over 5. Actually, let's do the denominator first. So this is 9 to the power of 3 over 5 over, this is 9 to the power of, well, 2 minus 4 is going to be negative 2, so negative 2 over 5. And since we're dividing here, what we need to do now is we need to subtract the powers, so 3 over 5. And because we have a minus sign here, we can change this to a plus, so plus 2 over 5. And 3 plus 2 is 5, so it's 9 to the power of 5 over 5, which is the same thing as 9 to the power of 1. And 9 to the power of 1 is just 9. Okay, so we move on to I. These are not too bad here, so 3 over 4 plus 5 over 4. 3 plus 5 is going to be 8, so this is going to be a to the power of 8 over 4, which is 8 to the power of 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Okay, so hopefully most of these steps are just kind of review from the arithmetic skills you learned in Math 8. Actually, over here, I guess we're going to start. Notice that the denominator is not the same, and I guess they start us off with some easier ones to deal with. So minus. So this should be a 6. You got to times that by 2 and times that by 2. So that's going to be negative 2 over 6. And sorry, I'm not sure why I had another minus sign there. So 2 over 6. And now this is going to be b to the power of, well, 5 minus 2 is going to be 3. So 3 over 6, which is just b to the 1/2. Okay, let's go on to k now. Okay, so you notice that the denominators, the 6 and the 3, they're not the same, so you might as well just times this by 2 and that by 2. So this is c to the power of 4 over 6 all over c to the power of 5 over 6. And now the denominators are the same, so you can simply subtract these a little bit easier now. So 4 minus 5 is negative 1, so this is c to the power of negative 1 over c to the power of negative 1 over 6. And that's the same thing as 1 over c to the power of 1 over 6. Good. We're making good progress here. Okay, next one here, you'll notice that there's a 3 here and a 2 there, so you want to make sure that you have a common denominator, so let's put that over 6. So this is d to the power of, okay, let's times this by 2 and that by 2, so that's 2 over 6, all over d to the power of, well, let's just times this by 3, times that by 3, and times that by 3, so that's going to be negative 3 over 6. Okay, so now the denominators are the same. Now we can simplify this, so this is d to the power of 2 over 6. And because there's a minus sign here, I can change to a plus and just add 3 over 6. So this is d to the power of 5 over 6. That's my final answer there. Okay, I think I will do a few more of these questions here. M is 9 over 4 to the power of 3 over 2. The key here is for these kind of problems, you want to look at the fraction power there and look at the denominator. There's a 2 there, right? So what you really want to do is you want to take a look at the 9 and the 4 and make sure you're writing them as a power of 2. So I know 9 can be written as 3 to the power of 2, and I know 4 can be written as 2 to the power of 2. And then what's going to happen here is this 3 over 2, basically it's really going to combine on the top, and it's also going to combine on the bottom. And I know this isn't the right way of writing this, but let me just show you the proper way of doing this now. This is 3 to the power 2, and the 3 over 2 is going to affect that as well. And on the bottom here, you have 2 to the power 2, and the 3 over 2 will affect that as well. So that's what's really happening here. And from there, you can just kind of cancel all those off, and that gives you 3 to the power 3. Those 2's cancel off, and you get 2 to the power 3 there. And I guess you can leave your final answer as that 3 to the power 3 over 2 to the power 3. I know 3 to the power 3 is 27, and 2 to the power 3 is going to be 8. But that's one way that you can do that particular problem. And I think O would be a similar case here. Remember, there's a 4 here, so what you want to do is you want to look at your 81 and your 16, and you want to make sure you can write those as something to the power of 4. So I know for 81, that's the same thing as 3 to the power of 4, and I know 16 is the same thing as 2 to the power of 4. And then both of those are going to be affected by the 3 over 4. So that 3 over 4 is really affecting the top and the bottom. And then from there, the 4's can cancel, giving you 3 to the power 3. The 4's can cancel, giving you 2 to the power 3. That's going to be 27 over 8 again. Okay, let's move on to the last 4 questions here. The last 4 questions have to do with your ability to distribute the fractions here. So here's multiplying here. So 2/3 times 1 over 4 is going to be b to the power of 2 over 12. And then 2/3 times 3 is going to be a to the power of 2. And if you simplify that, that's a to the power 2 and b to the power of 1 over 6. So that's your final answer there. And for R, yeah, once again, you're just timesing the powers together. So 1/2 times 4/3, so that's going to be 4 over 6. And 4/3 times 4 is going to be x to the power 16 over 3. And if you want to simplify that, that's going to be x to the power of 16 over 3 and y to the power of 2/3. So that's your final answer for that one. And the last question I'm going to do on this homework video guide, I will take this outside 6 to the 7, multiply it with the c to the power 1/2. So that's c to the power of 6 over 14. This is b to the power of 30 over 42. And that's going to be a to the power of, well, 2 times 6 is 12, and 3 times 7 is 21. And after that, we just simplify the fractions. So this is going to be a to the power of 4 over 7, b to the power of, divide top and bottom by 6, so that's going to be 5 over 7, I believe. And this would be c to the power of, divide top and bottom by 2, so 3 divided by 2, sorry, 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3, and half of 14 is going to be 7. Alright, so you're just kind of simplifying the fractions to kind of finish off that particular question. I do apologize if I mispronounced some of the numbers there, but I think this is the correct answer here. And letter T here, let's go ahead and multiply the numbers here. So that's going to be z to the power of, well, the 5's can cancel, so that's negative 12 over 2. And let's go ahead and multiply this with that guy. So this is a y to the power negative, well, the 4 and the 12, that's going to be 3, so that's going to be 9 over 5. And the last one here, if I multiply negative 12 over 5 with that one, that's going to be x to the power of, say, simplify thing, yeah, actually, here's a 12 and a 3, so that's going to be 4. So 4 times 4 is 16, so it's going to be negative 16 over 5. Okay, and since these are all negative, you can put this all over 1. So x to the power of 16 over 5, y to the power of 9 over 5, and the last one is z to the power of 6. 12 divided by 2 is 6. All right, so that concludes this homework video guide for the questions on questions 7 and 8.